Well, there's a new battle against a controversial anti-terror law in the Philippines. The country's top court has resumed hearing petitions seeking to nullify the legislation. As Buena Banal reports, young people from across the political divide have joined the chorus of opposition to the law.
These activists are fearing a repeat of military rule in the Philippines when thousands of dissidents were killed and tortured under the regime of late dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr. that ended 2 decades ago. They say the controversial anti-terror law will only bring the country back to those dark days.
Over 3 dozen petitions have been filed before the Philippine Supreme Court seeking to nullify the controversial anti-terror law, which was passed in 2020. The law allows for up to 24 days of warrantless detention of suspected terrorists and up to 90 days of surveillance through wiretapping. The government says the law is needed to quell terrorism, but detractors say the law may be used to target critics of government.
Young people who weren't even born during the dying days of martial law and already grew up under the country's fledgling democracy have joined the call to junk the legislation. Among the hot-button issues, red tagging, or what the UN Human Rights Office says is the government's pattern of tagging rights groups as communist terrorists. University debater Hans Wong is one of the youths who has petitioned the High Court. Having witnessed incidents of prejudice against Muslims in southern Philippines, where he comes from, Hans says dangerous generalizations prevent people from fully expressing and practicing their beliefs out of fear of being part of the stereotype.
Drawing from the experiences that I have of the circles I know of, I think that young people are probably more at risk of being forced to censure what they say and what they do online, particularly since we're probably the generation that is most digitally savvy and that are most hit by the expansive provisions that allow, like, for example, injunction or legal interference on the basis of what they say.
Security experts say the law's provision on prolonged detention and warrantless arrest allow authorities to gather evidence and information against terrorists. Others say left-leaning groups draw young people to the communist insurgency, a major flashpoint for law enforcement. But even Philippine activism has a long history of factionalism, with many groups arguing against armed rebellion. They, too, have been red-tagged. Lawyer Dino De Leon, a critic of President Rodrigo Duterte's administration, serves as counsel to the youth petitioners against the anti-terror law.
I got surprised because a lot of them, not just one, not just two, a lot of them were approaching me that they were interested to fight the law. The youth sector in this particular instance are actually composed of various groups and they come from different political spectrums. I'm inspired that they are actually filing cases.
Labor leader Joshua Mata has been an activist for over 3 decades, a veteran of demonstrations in Manila from day to night. He was among those who fought against the Marcos dictatorship 20 years ago, and now he's joined in some Filipinos who are calling for an end to Myanmar's military coup.
I think I speak for my generation when I say that we are elated, obviously, by the fact that the youngsters are the ones rising up to defend our rights. That is obviously something that heartens all of us, especially us activists who in the 1980s promised that never again will be ruled by a dictator. And it looks like the possibility of this government transforming our society into an authoritarian, a real authoritarian society would have a big problem because the youngsters are against them. And that definitely means we have a future.
Young people, says the veteran activist, are the silver lining to the country's woes. Buena Banal, CNA, Manila.